algal blooms. So we see those quite often here, both the non-harmful kind and also the harmful kind.
Before we talk about what an algal bloom is, we really need to talk about what algae is. So algae are microscopic plant-like organisms, and just like plants, they photosynthesize. When they bloom, they grow in massive quantities so that they discolor the water, and then we can see, usually in the case of Greenfield Lake, a green color on the lake. Some of the things you'll start to see when there's a bloom happening are discoloration of the water, so you'll start to see a greenish color. Blooms can look different depending on what type of algae is actually blooming. So sometimes you'll see these stringy mats on the surface, other times you'll see what looks more like spilled paint, and then other times you'll see something that looks a little bit more green distributed throughout. Blooms can affect humans in a number of different ways. They do obviously affect the environment. Even though they are a natural occurrence, they are kind of like a natural disaster, so they're not ideal. It degrades the water quality, which can then in turn hurt organisms that live in the water. So when algae are producing in mass, they're actually creating oxygen because they are photosynthesizers like plants. But when all of those cells die, you get a loss of oxygen because the cells are broken down by bacteria that live in the water. Some of the other things that algae can affect, sometimes we call an algal bloom a nuisance algae bloom because it's displeasant or unpleasant to look at, and it can also create an odor. The thing that's the most concerning about algal blooms is that sometimes algae, when blooming, can create toxins. So those toxins can be harmful to wildlife and people.
Algal blooms, require certain conditions, typically shallow water, slow moving, warm, excess nutrients. And so Greenfield Lake has all of those things. Greenfield Lake's incredibly shallow. One of the most important things is excess nutrients, which we have a lot of. You have, all around us, it's residential area, you have lots of lawns. People fertilize those lawns, and via stormwater runoff, we have lots of impervious surface, not a lot of filtration or treatment going on for those nutrients, so a lot of those nutrients are being dumped directly into the lake, which basically provides the food for the bloom to occur.
Greenfield Lake is a huge receiving water body because it's just collecting water from all of the urban area around Wilmington, and as that water builds up and overflows, that's the outfall goes into the Cape Fear River. Some of the stuff that we do regularly in affiliation with the City of Wilmington and UNCW, we perform water quality monitoring with the Wilmington Watersheds program. We take measurements, typical water quality measurements like oxygen, temperature, pH, conductivity, turbidity, which is generally the cloudiness of the water, as well as measure for nutrient pollution. So that's something that we do to keep kind of an ongoing monitoring of the lake, and establishing those data sets are important because it gives us an idea of how things are shifting over time. Something that people can do is, if they do see something that resembles a bloom, something kind of smells a little earthy, there's green water that looks kind of thick or soupy, almost like pea soup, something seems off, then get in touch with the City of Wilmington and let them know. And there are people who are trained to know what those algal blooms look like and identify them. So that's a great way to start.
So you can report a bloom to DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. They have a bloom response coordinator, and they will put that bloom on a mapping tool they have. It's important to contact DEQ and let them know you see a bloom. They can get it on that map, and that's a public-facing tool that people can reference so that they can make educated decisions on when and where they recreate. Blooms are a concern, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a reason for you not to get out there and experience Greenfield Lake or your local lake or creek. The most important thing I think for people is to get in touch with nature, get in touch with their local nature, and spend some time in and learn about it. It's definitely a concern, but it's important for people to get out and enjoy these pieces of nature that we have.